speaking about the session while I try to
Okay.
share the screen. So yeah, anyhow, we are going to be talking today about disruptions via startups. Technically, we are going to talk about how there are so many startups which are propping in left, right, and center, and how the entire ecosystem is changing. And one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest startups which have just sprung up in the past few years, is what we are using today, Zoom. And technology is a boon, it's a bane, it's a multiple or multitude of things. And the biggest bottleneck that I am facing today is that for the first time I've shifted from my regular old laptop to a tab today, and I'm not able to share my screen. But anyhow, irrespective of that, startups bring across a lot of play into the market. And one of the biggest play that it's brought into the market is the opening of the economy. What I wanted to share today via the slideshow was, I wanted to share today the lifespan of a startup. The lifespan of a startup, and how multiple startups have a different life cycle, and how they impact the economy of a country. Now, if so many of you have heard, I would love this to be a interactive session. So I'm going to ask you a few questions as in when I go. So many of you have heard about startups raking in funds, and we have heard of all these big startups across the world, right from a startup like Flipkart, or a startup like, Google. I would call Google also a startup, because technically now it's not a startup, it's a behemoth. But when it began, it was a startup, right? A technology giant like Facebook. A lot of times we talk about startups and we come, or we square down to technology. Now, this question which I want to ask all of you here is, how many of you can name a startup which is not connected to technology? Anyone? Any startup which doesn't really have a technology background? Hello, guys. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes, yes.
So the question here that I wanted to ask all of you is, how many of you know of startups which don't really have a technology background? You can use the chat box and reply.
We were of the opinion that usually all the startup will have technology background.
So technically, what I wanted to understand from all of you is that, you were saying that you cannot really have a startup without a technology background. Is that what I'm correct in understanding?
Hmm.
So as per you, all the startups, right from your Airbnb to your Tinder to your Pandora to your Alibaba, everything has a technology background. Now, what if I focus your attention on a startup like Airbnb? Does Airbnb have a technology background?
No idea, sir.
You guys are aware of what Airbnb is, or is it new? Use is a new term that I'm using. आपको सबको Airbnb के बारे में पता है? हाँ या ना? Yes or no is fine. Guys, are you aware of a company known as Airbnb? Yes or no? I am assuming that you are not aware. So let me tell you this: you are aware of a company known as Make My Trip, GoIBibo. Have you heard of that?
Yes, yes. We use it for the travel booking and all.
Great. So GoIBibo, Make My Trip, and all these aggregators that we are aware of today are somehow or the other inspired by this company known as Airbnb. Airbnb is nothing, air, bread, and breakfast. Air, bed, and breakfast. That is what Airbnb is basically about, right? So Airbnb, or what do you call, is like a new age. It was the old age Oyo, right? Now, the reason why I wanted to share this thing with all of you is that in today's world, when we talk about a startup, yes, Munal, that is right what you said. In today's world, when we talk about a startup invariably comes across with a technology. So without a technology, you cannot really have a startup. Right from your Olas to your Dunzo to your Swiggy to your Zomato, everything has an algorithm or a technology associated with it. Now, when we have so much technology associated with any startup, it is invariably true that all these technologies always change by time, right? Now, imagine, let me take you like 15 to 20 years ago. You must have seen this device known as a pager. right? All of you must have heard of this device known as pager. Today, the pagers are extinct. I'll just take you a bit more beyond that. You must have all heard of this device, which is known as a Zoom EOX camera. A Zoom EOX camera was earlier used to take wedding photographs or studio photographs. They were completely replaced by a regular Canon cameras or regular Nikon cameras. All these changes, even though they happened before the tech boom or the dot-com boom of 2000s, all these changes which happened before that also had some technology or the other associated with it. The technology today is changing rapidly, right? And the speed at which the technology is changing also means that there is a multiple disruption which is happening. We all know that we are living in a VUCA world. A VUCA world is a volatile, uncertain world, right? Wherein so much change is happening and you have to adapt the change to survive. Now, what are the life cycles that we are looking for today? Today, if a startup comes to the being, it comes across with a technology which makes sure that its idea or the ideation phase is something which is very unique. Let's take an example. Let's take Ola as an example. Have you heard of this? Acha, who is a competitor for Ola today? Ola, the cab hailing company. Who is a
Uber.
competitor for Ola?
Uber.
Uber. Good. Any other competitor in India today? No, no. I mean, you will only think of Ola and Uber. Let me take you 10 years beforehand. 10 years beforehand, was there a competitor of Ola? Ever? Have you heard of an Indian competitor for Ola? Yes, Mrunal, you wanted to say something?
Ronald, kindly mute your mic.
Zoom car was? Yes. Okay. Well enough. There was this company known as Taxi for Sure. Have you guys heard of this company, Taxi for Sure? You can use the chat box if you don't want to use the mic. There was this company known as Taxi
Yes.
for Sure, which had an
Yes.
algorithm which was much, much better than Ola. So what did Ola do? Ola went ahead and acquired Taxi for Sure, and it integrated the algorithm of Taxi for Sure. Now, Ola's algorithm today is something what we call a dynamic algorithm. A dynamic algorithm, for people who are not from a technology background, just like me, I would like to share, is something which changes every second. It is adapting. It is adapting to changes. It is adapting to how the customers or the consumers utilize it. That is what a changing dynamic algorithm is. Now, Ola today is using a changing dynamic algorithm. Now, it incorporates multiple changes which are bringing across the ecosystem that is there. Now, if I want to come up with a competitor for Ola, it is going to be very hard. If I make this statement, am I correct or am I wrong? If I want to compete with Ola today, it will be very hard for me. Is this statement true or false? True. And if I say that this this problem that I have, that I cannot compete with Ola, is merely economical in nature, am I correct? The fact
Yes.
that I cannot, yes, it is merely economical in nature, it is not technological in nature, because I can obviously come across with a better technology, but I will not be able to compete with Ola. Why? Because it's just going to buy me out. For example, Flipkart had a very big competitor. And what did Flipkart do? Flipkart just bought it out. Can you name the competitor? A competitor that Flipkart bought. Anyone using the chat box or the mic? Can anyone name the competitor that Flipkart bought? Seriously, no one? We're here talking about startups. This should be at the back of your hand. Yes, Mrunal, absolutely. Mintra. Mintra was a startup that Flipkart bought. So today, the problem that I have when I try to beat a startup with better technology is economical backing. So when I come across with an idea to today's world, as a startup, we do something known as a beta testing. In the beta testing or in the beta version, you have minor bugs. You must have seen Google beta version, or you have Microsoft Windows running on your laptops, your PCs, right? I'm currently using a tab which has got Samsung's own user interface, right? They are beta versions. Now, these beta versions will have some bots, some mistakes. So these are tested out, and as and when the testing occurs, the issues come up, and these issues are resolved. Now, in today's world, what startups do is they do not come across with the final technology. You must have all seen Shark Tank India. You must have seen Shark Tank other than the Indian version also. There, you must have seen a lot of startups which are non-technology based, which are e-commerce based, or which are something which is a manufacturing with a unique patented idea, right? So it is not necessarily that technology is a part of it, but they are selling the entire concept and they are asking the sharks for money. If I make the statement that it is not just the money that they're pitching for, but they're also pitching for the expertise of the sharks, would you accept it? Yes or no?
Yes.
So that technically means that they are also technically in a beta version where the sharks bring across their experience. They will automatically change their company's structure, version, DNA. It will metamorphosize. Now, this is where we all should understand the life cycle of a startup. Startups probably 5 years ago and startups today, and 5 years hence on, not even 5 years, probably a year hence on, will automatically have to evolve because the technology is drastically changing, and so is the money making capacity of organizations. Today, a Swiggy or a Zomato or a Swiggy gives a discount of roughly 25 to 30% on any purchase of yours, right? Now, this purchase, they are making losses. They're making losses, but they are writing off this loss under one specific head, which is known as customer acquisition. There's this company was Dunzo. Have you heard of this company, Dunzo, Dunzo? Anyone who has heard of this company, Dunzo?
No.
Dunzo is one of India's largest funded startup. It is making consistent losses. It is a cash burning company. In the world of startups, there are two types of companies: a company which is making money and a company which is burning money. Both these companies, I mean, in a very theoretical situation, one company should not be invested in, right? A cash burning company. Would you invest in a cash burning company? Yes or no? I mean, in a very ideal situation, you would invest in a cash making company or a cash burning company.
Cash
Making.
company.
Everyone would invest in a cash making company. No one would want to invest in a cash burning company. Just Google Dunzo and you check out the amount of investments that Sequoia Capitals, Tiger Global, White Smart have put so much money in this, and this company has been consistently making losses. The strategy behind here is they are burning the cash to acquire customers. So this is another life cycle of a startup. Like the beta version of a technology base that a startup has, a startup also has to have customer acquisitions. Why? Because your end user is the one who's going to pay for your services. Now, you need to have enough data about the end user, and you have to have enough number of end users in your organization or in your startup so that you can make money in the future. Do you know how Zomato started up? What was Zomato? Was Zomato always an aggregator, a food aggregator? What was Zomato's original business? Anyone? Can you help me out by sharing what was Zomato's original business? Come on, use the chat box. Anyone who can share what was Zomato's original business? Yes, no, nothing? No answer? Okay, Zomato's original business was technically, it was into pure table bookings. As an organization, as a company, it used to help diners book tables. That is what Zomato was into. But Zomato gradually became a restaurant aggregator. So when it became a restaurant aggregator, it first started onboarding restaurants without charging money. It was not charging money to restaurants so that they can get onboarded. It was not charging money from a customer also. So how was Zomato making money? Wasn't Zomato making losses? It was making losses, but it was fine. Why? Because this phase in the life cycle of a startup is known as a customer acquisition phase. The beta version of Zomato was when it was into booking of tables. Automatically, it gradually transitioned when it realized that the business has to evolve. It evolved into something else. It evolved into an aggregator business, and it started burning cash by acquiring customers. So at this time, when Zomato went across for funding, it would have pitched to the investor that, boss, the moment I acquire customers, I'll make customers so used to my service that they will start paying money. Does anyone remember the first amount of money, first amount of the charge that Zomato used to charge? So Zomato had two services, Zomato and Zomato Pro. I think people have forgotten this part. Zomato used to be free and Zomato Pro used to be chargeable. Now in Zomato Pro, you used to have multiple options of getting discounts. In Zomato regular version, you never had that. Even today, Zomato has Zomato Pro, Zomato, and Zomato Gold also. I think Zomato Premium, Zomato Gold, whatever they call it. The point here is, in the life cycle, using Zomato's example, what I'm trying to share is, in the life cycle of a startup, there are different certain points. The first point being the beta testing version, next point being the customer acquisition version. Then comes the growth. So Zomato listed itself into an IPO. It became a behemoth. The moment it became a behemoth, what happened? The moment it became a behemoth, it started writing down its losses. Do you know this very interesting article that came out? The moment Zomato IPO came out, it shut down its global offices. US office was shut down and Dubai office was shut down. So the offices are merely set up as fronts to tell people that, boss, we are global and we exist. But Zomato realized that that is not necessary. We don't need an office in US to run our business, because ours is more like cloud business. We can just get our boys on the ground to get these things done. So this is the third part of the life cycle. When you have enough money, you start writing off the losses. Now, in a startup, we have the beta version, we have the customer acquisition version, and we have the writing of losses version. The moment you cross all the three phases, you become a behemoth. A behemoth is something like a grown organization, an organization which sustains itself, an organization which knows that now it has to evolve. It is already in green. It is a profit-making venture. By this time, and write it down somewhere, by this time, 70% of the founders or the co-founders have either quit the business or they have liquidated their stake to 10 to 15% only. Now today, Mark Zuckerberg technically owns the majority shares in Facebook. If I make this statement, am I true or false?
True.
Today, sorry, I didn't catch it. I didn't catch the answer. So if I make the statement that Mark Zuckerberg owns the majority stake, okay. So Joseph sir, you said true. So let me share with this to you. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't own the majority shares in Facebook. He holds the voting rights in Facebook. So you must have all heard about this, the fact that Facebook is making losses, its shares tanked. Yet Mark Zuckerberg's one share is worth 4 votes. So he's voting rights at a higher stake, but he's already reduced his stake to the lowest minimum. It's not more than 18%. Him and his wife combined have an 18% stake in Facebook. That's it. So what happens by this, what I wanted to share with all of you is startup life cycle, the disruptions that they cause, all this leads to a specific start and end. Many times I'm asked this question whenever I go to universities and say, कि boss, startup का life cycle क्या होता है? खड़ा करके फिर क्या करने का? Should we just sell it off and exit the company? No, that doesn't happen. You don't really need to sell the company. What you can do is either you can get it acquired and build a bigger business, or you can give it to someone else to run it and make it much bigger than what it was, right? So Google today is owned by whom? What is the parent company of Google? Known as
Alphabet.
Bingo. Now, if you guys, once the session is over, if you go and check the shareholding pattern of Alphabet, you would realize that Sergey Brin and Larry Page, the founders of Google, don't really own the majority stake in Alphabet anymore. There are multiple venture capitalists, there are multiple investors, there are multiple people, there are even actors like Ashton Kutcher who own stake in Alphabet. But it's a smart choice. First, you go through the beta version, you make multiple changes in the organization. A lot of times the entire business strategy changes. You start off at something else and you end up doing something else altogether, like Zomato, right? Or the moment then you enter the cash burning stage where you're acquiring customers, you're getting more people on board, right? Exactly, Mrunal. Lenskart is an example. Good, good. Now you get more people on board and you grow as an organization, you grow as a structure. The moment you grow as a structure, then you are focusing on the profit center. You're trying to make profit. Then you have only two options. Either you acquire another company, become bigger, or you get acquired. Now, these are the only two options that startups have. Startup ecosystem is always built on this premise. Examples, Instagram. Instagram was a separate entity. Facebook bought it because Facebook realized that because our attention spans are getting shorter and people are much more responsive to pictorial representation. Instagram became something that Facebook wanted. Facebook had the money, it bought Instagram. If Instagram would have had the money, Instagram would have bought Facebook. But no, Facebook was a behemoth and they were able to generate enough capital and they were able to get enough backing to buy Instagram. Other examples, WhatsApp. WhatsApp has been taken over by which company? Who owns WhatsApp? Who owns
Facebook.
WhatsApp?
Facebook.
Exactly.
Facebook.
Meta. Meta owns Facebook. Now Facebook is no longer known as Facebook, it's Meta. So Meta owns WhatsApp. It's a very, very smart strategy. Either you, in the life cycle of startup, let us always understand this once concept. Either you become so big that you can acquire someone else, or you get acquired. You're so valuable to someone that you get acquired. WhatsApp was so valuable. Why? Because it had so much data, it had so much integration. It was easily acquired by Meta because Meta realized the value that merely by integrating WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram. So today you do realize that if you post a story on Instagram, it automatically gets posted into Facebook. It also has a linking to get posted into Twitter. So by just clicking onto Instagram, I can post to Facebook, I can post to Twitter. By clicking on WhatsApp, I can post a story on WhatsApp story and I can automatically post it to Facebook also. So the integration is really good. And via this, what is happening is they get a lot of customers. It's all about eyeballs. The reason why across the globe, India is always a very, very lucrative market is because of our population, the eyeballs that we give to the market, right? Let me make this very simple statement. Mercedes-Benz is a very expensive car making company. They are very profitable, but it cannot compete with Maruti Suzuki because Mercedes-Benz may sell 1,000 cars a year, rough figure. Maruti Suzuki would sell 10 lakh cars a year, rough figure. I'm sure it's more than that. But volumes में ही पैसा है. The money is always in the volumes. By selling 1,000 cars, Mercedes-Benz might be making 4.5 CR, but by selling 10 lakh cars, Maruti Suzuki would be making 45 CR. That is one of the major reasons why in startups as well as common life, the more customer acquisitions that you make, the better your organization structure or the better organization profitability would be. And that is the reason why in the life cycle of a startup, customer acquisition or the cash burning phase is the most important phase. Let me share an example of another cash burning Indian company. Geo. Geo started off as what? Geo started off merely as providing 4G data, internet packages, cheap internet packages. You see the evolution of Geo in the past 3 years, right from giving data, it has now shifted to OTT. From OTT, today Geo is there in Geo Mart. So right now, if I want to order grocery, okay, I'm sitting at my house and I suddenly feel like I have to buy grocery. I have Amazon, I have Big Basket, I have Grofers, I have so many organizations or so many OTT, so many applications on my smartphone via which I can buy grocery. But do you know there is a MOQ for all these applications? MOQ is a minimum order quantity. That is, I have to order a minimum amount of goods from these places, otherwise I'll be charged a delivery fee. GeoMart does not have a MOQ. If I just want to buy a thumbs up, What JioMart would do is it will go to the nearest grocery shop that I have and it will just give me the thumbs up. Simple. Right now, JioMart is undergoing a cash burning phase wherein it's acquiring customers. When Jio was running the 4G data free of cost, giving dirt free data, at that time it was burning multiple cash. But what did that do? We are all hooked to Jio. Now think about this. Either you or one of your family member would have a Jio connection. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. And this change would have happened in the last 2.5 years only. And it would have happened only because Jio में data बहुत सस्ता है, right? And data बहुत मिलता है. It is so dirt cheap. So it completely destroyed existing competition. Vodafone, a behemoth. It's an MNC which has so much money. And it was connected with the Indian company, SR. Ruyas were making so much money, right? Yet, think about this. Yet, Jio entered the market, gave everything free of cost, burnt cash. They made losses, but they acquired customers. And now these customers are so used to Jio that they don't feel like shifting. Now I buy a Jio ka internet, broadband, I get free television, right? I get free data. 1 year का पैकेज मेरे को सब कुछ सारे चैनल्स मिलते हैं. There is something which gives me movies, there is something which gives me entertainment, there is something which gives me OTT channels. Everything is given by Jio. It is now getting me used to grocery. So this is the benefit of burning cash. But to burn cash in a startup, you need to have cash. So Jio was lucky. Jio was completely lucky that it was able to disrupt the telecom market because the parent company Reliance was ready to burn cash. Now it is going to disrupt the delivery market. It is going to disrupt the delivery market. And let me make this statement. This is getting recorded. A year and a half, 2 years later, henceforth, every second person in this country will be using JioMart. If at all you're used to shopping online, you will be using JioMart. Why? Because it is getting us used to everything. I don't buy vegetables anymore. I just go to JioMart, order groceries, and I get it the next day morning. And I don't have to have a minimum order quantity. This is disruption. These are the different verticals or levels of disruption that happens in the startup market. I'm so sorry. I could not share my presentation, some technical glitch. But yes, this is the session. This is the end of the session from my side. I think I've used the exact 30 minutes that were given to me. I'm open for Q&A. You guys can either switch on, unmute yourself, you can ask questions to me, or you can use the chat box to ask questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll take one or two questions only. Thank you.
Sir, hello. Ji, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, hi, Mr.
Yeah,
Ajmera.
it's a really, yeah. Ji, sir. It's a very interesting and informative session, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Any question for me, Ajmera
And
ji?
sir, you have given lots of examples, and it's really, yes, Ji. Sir, as you have said that Jio is coming in grocery markets, right? And in Bhavnagar, I am living in Bhavnagar. So it has an open store in Bhavnagar also, right? And they are sending goods or groceries, what we ordered, right, sir? But, sir, can it be affordable to them as far as the expense is concerned? Fixed cost is concerned, sir?
Not at all. They are making losses. Ajmera ji, let me be very clear. These companies burn money. वो लोग लॉस खाते हैं, ये लोग को पैसा घुमावे છે. કારણ શું છે? અત્યારે they are more interested in getting customers. First, they will make you get used to it. Once you get used to it, think about this. Once you get used to a startup, then you are okay to pay 10 rupees per month. ना membership 10 रुपए दे देंगे आप. 10 का फिर कभी 15 हो जाएगा, कभी 20 हो जाएगा, कभी 25 हो जाएगा. You will be okay because it's a very minuscule amount of money. See, Amazon Prime,
Yes.
na, when it started out, it was free. Remember? Amazon Prime was not
Got it.
charging money, but now you got used to Amazon Prime. So it is okay, 199 dena hai, 99 dena. It is not that much. So first they will make you get used to their services. Once they acquire your interest, once they cater to your needs, then they will start charging a very small amount of money. Oh, and once you start paying them, they already have, like, imagine on day one, if I start charging money, there will be only 100 people who will pay me 99 rupees. So my revenue is 9900. So technically that means that I will not be making losses. I'll be making 1900. Imagine for 3 months, I acquire customers by giving free services. I have made up 40,000 losses. The 4th month onwards, I already now have 5,000 free customers. I start charging 10 rupees from them. You are charging 99, huh? And you made 9,900. Here I am charging 10 rupees. I have 5,000 customers. I have 50,000. So 5th month onwards, my loss of 40,000 becomes null and I start making money. So this is the strategy that all these companies are using to acquire customers and disrupt the market. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Any suggestion for a new person who is starting a startup from your side?
Yes.
Yes, multiple suggestions are there. See, I myself have dabbled in funding and startups. I have few startups in the food and beverages wing. I have few startups in the manpower division also. 2009 was the first year when I started acquiring funding. I went across with a business proposal. I started sharing with venture capitalists, and that is when I realized that it is not so easy to get funding. First and foremost, the biggest suggestion that I would have for people who have an idea or you have an idea for a startup is there is an ideation phase. In the ideation phase, you should discuss your startup with multiple people, get mentors, and do the proper analysis. So there has to be a cross analysis of your idea. See, you know your idea is amazing. You know it is going to work, but you should meet a pessimist who tells that your idea doesn't work so that you are aware of whatever drawbacks or bottlenecks your idea has. Write it down. Because when you go to acquire funding, ना कभी भी आप किसी से पैसा मांगने जाओगे ना, ये सारे सवाल वो भी करेगा. So first time when I went to acquire funding in 2009, I was asked, "Ki boss, everything is getting automated. Why would someone hire a manpower? I would rather have a CCTV camera." So I went across to acquire funding for a company which I was running which was into security services, manpower security. So I went across to a company and said, "I need 1 CR to expand my business." So they said, "Sir, you need 1 CR to expand your business. So how much do you need?" I said, "Sir, I agree the CCTV camera hai wahan pe. You don't need manpower, but you need someone to run the CCTV camera, or you need someone to read the data of the CCTV camera. कौन देखेगा? आप तो दिखने नहीं वाले हो. So let me give manpower for that." So manpower as a element is never going to go out of the business. So that is how I spoke about when I spoke about acquiring a funding. The example I wanted to share with all of you is there are always pros and cons to your idea. Your idea is your baby, but that doesn't mean that it is foolproof. Make sure that you write down, you ensure that you do a SWOT analysis. You know what a SWOT analysis is? Strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of your idea. Do a SWOT analysis of your product, share it with someone, share it with mentors. There's so many people who would love to talk to you about your business. Get the entire thing down, and then you go ahead for any sort of funding from the government, from private people, from venture capitalists, etc. And the most important thing, yesterday also I was in a VC pitch, I shared the same thing. Whenever you pitch your idea to someone, always remember that you are your idea. Don't sell your idea and exit. Day one से आप exit plan बना के जाओगे, sir आप ले लो 99%, I'm okay with 1%, doesn't work. So that means that the investor will lose confidence in you. So don't do that. Stick to your idea. Your idea is your baby. Hold on to that. So yeah, that's a suggestion that I would have.
Thank you very much, Sital sir, for this wonderful session. And on behalf of ISTD Anand chapter, we thank you all the participants who join us today for this Friday forum. And we would like to see you all next Friday with a different speaker. We'll be using the same link on the same time, right? By this note, I once again thank you, Sital sir, for this wonderful session and time, and all of the participants. Thank you very much. We'll be putting this video on our ISTD Anand YouTube channel, so you can refer it to your friends and colleagues who missed out to join us today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.